mavericksbeef.com or visit them off Lexington and Roseville. Mavericks Real Roast Beef.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPTA 20, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome to The Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in the United States. I'm your host, John Parker. My executive producer, Jim Pounds, is flying right now. He is on his way to Michigan for a couple of performances of the Remember Project, which is theater that he participates in to help people, educate people around Alzheimer's and dementia-related issues and how to help diagnose and support people in your life that are going through that. So hopefully his flight goes well. It better go well. I know he's missing some big news today, and he's bummed about that. So in the second half hour of the show, Jake Wittich, managing editor of Windy City Times, is back with some new reporting on an alderperson in Chicago who is suing an ICE agent. He's gonna have more about that. He was on the ground at the Chicago No Kings protest, so we're gonna get an update from him regarding that. And then he's also going to share with us about Miss Majors, who recently passed away, and her impact on Chicago. Up first, however, the Minnesota Supreme Court has ruled in favor of trans athletes. Earlier today, the court released their unanimous decision in Cooper versus USA Powerlifting. The court ruled that the Minnesota Human Rights Act bans discrimination against trans athletes and that they have the right to compete. The case was argued by Gender Justice with co-counsel from Nichols Castor PLLP, Schlesinger PLLC, and Primo Frank. During a press conference earlier today, Chris Mosier said that sport is a safe space when we can be with others and work towards a common goal. He went on to say that teamwork is about caring for others. Chris is the first transgender athlete to represent the United States in international competition. I felt that really set the tone for Gender Justice as they were running the press conference today to open with Chris to set that theme up of sports and the importance of them. They also noted in the press conference that last year, if I have the fact right, 80% of Americans participated in some form of sport one way or another, which is a huge statistic that lets us know how much sports is ingrained into American culture. In terms of sports affected by this ruling, it covers not only competitive school sports, but to adult recreational sports. But it was much more broad than that. More in a minute. Immediately when I hear about court cases, and I don't know if you're the same way, we immediately go to the Supreme Court and how it is very anti-trans. And I say that meaning it doesn't matter what the case is. It always seems to be that they are ruling against trans people, and that to me would suggest a bias. There are a couple of cases currently related to trans athletes in front of the Supreme Court this term. But according to Jess Braverman, legal director at Gender Justice, no matter how the Supreme Court rules in those cases, that would have no effect on what the Minnesota Public Accommodation Law is and how the Supreme Court ruled on it today. And so what does that mean, public accommodations? That goes way beyond sports and broadly addresses public accommodations such as restaurants, hotels, salons, bars, professional offices, museums, shopping centers, hospitals, swimming pools, clinics, health clubs. You get the idea. This case goes all the way back to 2018, 7 years. So J.C. Cooper wanted to compete in a bench press competition hosted by USA Powerlifting. She applied and included letters from 2 healthcare providers, the medical reasons for the current medications that she was taking, and a therapeutic use exemption. Jess Braverman said in today's press conference that the medications J.C. Cooper was using were used by both transgender and cisgender folks, and that they are approved all the time under the therapeutic use exemption. At the time of her application, USA Powerlifting had no policies related to trans athletes, but they were members of the International Powerlifting Federation, and that organization, the federation, uses, for the most part, what the International Olympic Committee guidelines are. JC, at the time of her application, met all of the IOC's requirements. But USA Powerlifting denied Cooper's application, and then they created a policy saying that no trans athletes can compete in any of their sporting competitions. So in 2019, Gender Justice, along with co-counsel at Nichols Castor, filed a charge of discrimination with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights. Now, I want to note, because I learned this in another case that Gender Justice has brought forward, that initial claim is not a lawsuit. So you file a claim of discrimination with the Minnesota Department of Human Rights under this broad act, and then you go into mediation and into negotiations between the plaintiff and the person who you're filing a discrimination charge against. So there was a mediation process, there were negotiations, but those failed. So in 2021, Gender Justice and Nichols Castor filed a lawsuit against USA Powerlifting. And that case has been working its way through the courts for the past 7 years, finally to the Minnesota Supreme Court, where today we got a unanimous ruling in favor of J.C. Cooper. Jess Braverman said the ruling is massively meaningful. Riley Palmer, who is with Nichols Castor PLLP, said that the decision upheld multiple principles of the Minnesota Human Rights Act. An area where we see transgender rights rolled back all the time is through religious exemptions and faith organizations. So I asked during the press conference today, like, if a church had a softball team or league, would they be exempt from today's ruling? And Braverman said that we would have to wait to see if anyone could make a religious claim and ask for a religious exemption. They were also asked today, Gender Justice was asked, if MAGA attempted to change the Minnesota Human Rights Act, what would that mean for today's case? And Braverman responded that there could be lawsuits to any changes that MAGA or the legislature really were to attempt to make to the Minnesota Human Rights Act. Before the ruling came down, Gender Justice released an open letter that had over 2,000 signatories on it. Notably, there was R.K. Russell, who was the first openly gay NFL player. There was Breonna Turner of the Indiana Fever, WNBA. Chelsea Wolfe, who is a BMX cyclist and U.S. Olympian. C.J. Jackson, who is a professional hockey player in the PWHL. And Maya Reddy, professional golfer and former collegiate athlete. According to Gender Justice, a wide variety of sports was ultimately represented in this letter of over 2,000 signatories. There were triathletes, football, aka soccer players, hockey players, cyclists, and golfers. It also included, as I was going through the letter, dozens, hundreds, if you will, of parents, lawyers, coaches, elected officials, members of the LGBTQ community, and allies. As a media organization hosting a radio program, I am always very curious about the headlines surrounding the news. And there were some interesting headlines today that were technically factual, but I feel like were kind of misrepresentative. I don't know how to really characterize that, because the headline, I'm always very sensitive about headlines. Because in today's short attention span world, a lot of the time we're just looking at the headline and then moving on. And so here is one from CBS News. Minnesota Supreme Court rules USA Powerlifting discriminated against trans athlete, returns to lower court. NPR News. In split decision, Minnesota Supreme Court rules USA Powerlifting discriminated against transgender weightlifter. WMTW, Minnesota Supreme Court sends transgender powerlifters legal challenge back to lower court. The Cloquet Pine Journal, Minnesota Supreme Court rules USA powerlifting discriminated against transgender athlete, sends case back. Now, the thing that I want to note about that, if you're someone who saw this come across your phone, or there was an AP News alert, or whatever, and you're seeing, well, what does that mean? Sends the case back? Does that mean that it's not resolved yet? And that's where I'm getting a little my hackles up about the headline writing around this, because if folks were in the press conference today, Jess Braverman said that today's case was a public accommodations case. And what was technically sent back to the lower court was around whether or not USA Powerlifting had a quote, legitimate business case, a business issue to discriminate against JC Cooper, to keep trans athletes from participating in their sporting events. And while that is technically true, this is what it buries. According to Jess Braverman, JC Cooper won a public accommodations case. So USA Powerlifting could attempt a lawsuit on a business case, but they would still lose because of how the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled that you cannot discriminate against trans people when it comes to public accommodations. So Gender Justice said that they were going to watch and see what happens if USA Powerlifting were going to attempt in that lower court to try to say that they have a legitimate business case. But they were very clear that the public accommodations ruling ruled, and that's what's going to be the ultimate ruling here. So, technically these media outlets are reporting a fact, but I feel like the headline buries the win for transgender people that happened today, and it was pretty significant. All right, we are going to take a break. Before we do, I want to share about our travel partner, Travel Marquette. And the reason why is that Marquette, Michigan has become a very special place for me. For the past 10 years, I have been traveling to Marquette. And part of the reason why is that I love that when I'm there, I don't have to worry about traveling while queer. It is a university town. It is a super blue city and a reliably blue county with a very active pride organization. I just got back from Marquette this past weekend, and I cannot tell you, the world sucks right now, and it was so nice to just get in the car, drive up to Marquette, beautiful weather, and it was an opportunity to sort of reset, recharge, refill my cup, as it were. If that is something you'd like to do, you can visit travelmarquette.com to start your adventure. That's travelmarquette.com. More with The Gailey Show when we come back. Hey friends, this is John Parker from The Gailey Show. When I travel, I want to go somewhere where I can unwind, get back to nature, like with waterfalls and hiking, enjoy some classic downtown shopping with good restaurants, and also just be myself as a queer person without worries. That's why twice a year for the past 10 years, I've been visiting Michigan's Marquette County. This fall, join me and head up to the Fresh Coast. Visit travelmarquette.com to start your journey.
This season, bring the whole family to see Irving Berlin's White Christmas. This smash hit musical based on the classic film returns by popular demand to delight you at Chanhassen dinner theaters. With loads of laughter and a stunning showcase of Irving Berlin songs, White Christmas is a celebration of the romance, friendship, and magic of the holidays. Make your plans today to see White Christmas. Visit chanhassendt.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Shamblot from Shamblot Family Dentistry. We're the fear-free, shame-free dental office. We know dental anxiety and dental phobia are real. We'll take the time to get to know you and give you what you need to be comfortable at all times. We offer free nitrous oxide laughing gas and have high-tech options to help you feel calm and relaxed during your appointments. We'll help you get through every appointment in the most pain-free way possible. If you're having a dental emergency, we'll try and get you in the same day you call because we don't like to see anyone in pain. As my daughter Rachel says,
if you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been going to Shamblat Family Dentistry for years. They get me in last minute when I'm in pain and make regular checkups easy and comfortable.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I am John Parker. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour. Brett is in the control room and playing the exact music of what I'm feeling like today after that Supreme Court decision. I just want to dance right now.
No, I'm with you too. Yeah, and I'm glad you added context to that ruling too, because I'd only seen the headline. As you said, it's deceiving sometimes on what it actually means.
Isn't it? I mean, yes, I appreciate the journalistic you're reporting the fact, but you're burying what that actually means anyway. Okay, so I want to actually bring up another court case that happened earlier this week. A federal judge is planning to file an injunction on 16 states and the District of Columbia to block the MAGA Trump administration from forcing those states to remove all references to trans and gender diverse identities from sex health education plans. So it's U.S. District Judge Ann Aiken, who actually of note here, and I'm reading in LGBTQ Nation, their analysis of the ruling is that the Judge Aiken used the language of segregation and, crucially, Brown versus Board of Education to highlight that the administration's efforts are attempting to create a separate but equal policy. And that is what the Brown versus Board of Education shut down when that was ruled by the Supreme Court way back decades ago. So the MAGA Trump administration was threatening to withhold federal funding from public schools if they didn't change their programs and curriculum to align with his propaganda, gender ideology, executive order that is factually wrong, scientifically wrong, morally wrong, all the wrongs. And many school districts actually were ignoring these requests to comply with the executive order. And, you know, I'm thinking about here some universities, and we're going to talk about universities in a second as well, how they're reacting to another Trump administration proposal. That some of these universities who have caved to the Trump administration literally cannot say that there are the reality of gender on their campus, except for in classrooms where apparently there's just a tiny sliver of academic freedom left where you can actually get the truth in a classroom. But the minute you leave that classroom, you are now surrounded by MAGA Trump's ideology. And again, scientifically wrong, factually wrong, morally wrong, executive order. So I think that's very interesting to see what happens here with this injunction. Of course, as we've been continuing to report here on The Gailey Show, I fully expect that the Trump administration will run this up to the Supreme Court as fast as they can to try to get a ruling in their favor, which they almost always do. I think 3/4 to 75 to 80% of the time on the shadow docket, they are getting a favorable ruling. And why that continues to annoy me, and why I feel that is the number one reason why moderates and centrists and conservatives need to get on board with packing this court with actual real justices who are going to do their job, is that the majority of the court, the conservatives, the MAGA judges, are making rulings through this shadow docket, and they're just giving one sentence rulings saying, yeah, go ahead. They're not having any oral arguments. They're not having any, any data put in front of them. They're just saying, yeah, go ahead and do this, but it's one sentence. How do you interpret one sentence if you're a district court, if you're a federal court that's underneath the Supreme Court? So they're giving constitutional law and saying this is legal, but we're not going to tell you why it's legal. And they keep using the shadow docket over and over and over and over again. And it is really a problem if you are going to be the Supreme Court, be the entity, the be-all, end-all entity of this is what is and isn't constitutional, but we're just going to rule in that in one sentence or two sentence rulings, documents, and then you all have to figure out why we said what we said. That's wrong. That's not how it's supposed to be happening. And they're going to continue doing this. Clearly, they're not stopping it. So the only way to fix that, because we can't impeach them unless they commit a crime and murder somebody, the only way to fix this, the only way to get the Supreme Court to work like the Supreme Court is supposed to be, is to add additional justices to that. And that is not an ideological thing. That's not saying, oh, I don't like the rulings, like people are accusing me on YouTube. Oh, you don't like the way that it worked out, so, you're just, a sore loser. No, the Supreme Court is supposed to function by people bring cases to it. They argue the cases. There is evidence, and then there is a ruling, and there is a justification for the ruling. That is how the Supreme Court is supposed to work. And you can sit there and say, well, this shadow docket, this is supposed to be fast. They shouldn't have to write these big, long opinions. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson is finding the time to write rulings, dissenting against the 1-2 sentences the majority is putting out there. And she's not writing 3 or 4 pages. She's writing 30 to 40 pages. So I don't want to hear that you don't have time to think through this. She is doing the work. The MAGA justices are not doing the work. And we need a Supreme Court who is working, which is why we need to add more justices to the Supreme Court. Another story I want to bring up here. So the MAGA Trump administration is trying to take a different tact besides just, pulling federal funding and saying, you will do what I say, or I'm not going to give you federal funding. They tried a different tactic, which is to bribe colleges into ending trans resources, trans rights, trans recognition. And interestingly, the majority of them thus far have said, nah, we're good. It's a thing that they were calling the Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education, which many people are calling an extortion scheme. It was pitched to 9 colleges and universities in a letter to them that the MAGA Trump administration sent earlier this month. And it was 10 points in there, 10 things that you had to do. You had to comply with the gender ideology, executive orders. And then you had to do a variety of things about how you were dealing with enrollment. You had to get rid of, you had to mandate that you use the ACT or the SAT for your admissions policies. Well, the University of Arizona, University of Southern California, Dartmouth, University of Virginia, Brown, MIT, and the University of Pennsylvania have all rejected the administration's academic shakedown. I think it's a little interesting that UPenn is on there, given their capitulation earlier this year, and I'm not going to forget that, and I will be reminding UPenn for the rest of my life of what they just did. But we'll get into that in another segment, another story. So, because that is a story for an episode in and of itself. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to have Jake Wittich, managing editor of Windy City Times, with new reporting on a lawsuit filed by an alderperson in Chicago against an ICE agent. No Kings protest updates. He was there on the ground. And then Miss Majors. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Gaily Show.
This is Santita Jackson. Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central, we'll bring you the best progressive talkers, thinkers, and doers on AM 950, Minnesota's progressive voice.
He's greedy. He's scrumptious. He's horrid. Roald Dahl's The Enormous Crocodile the Musical is on stage now through November 23rd at Children's Theater Company, featuring eye-popping puppets, a rich score with great groove, and plenty of mischievous audience interaction. Don't miss the U.S. premiere of the smash UK hit. Get your tickets for The Enormous Crocodile the Musical today at childrenstheater.org.
In today's uncertain times, Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces believes that a fire can add comfort and security to your life. At Woodland, our mission is to connect you to a place for fire that works.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces installed our wood stove years ago, and we still love it. Watching the fire, feeling the heat is a joy we experience every day. And knowing we have a reliable heat source makes us feel snug and safe.
There are many choices in wood, gas, or electric. For diversity in styles, at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we display over 180 models, and 35 of these are burning displays. You can experience the glow and warmth of a live fire.
Whether wood, gas, or electric, find a fire that warms your heart, a fire that adds comfort and security to your life. See the many choices at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, located on the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis, and online at woodlandstoves.com.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces since 1977. For over 48 years, our slogan has been, out of the ordinary products and services. Our mission is to get you a fireplace that works in your life.
Hey, Francois, where are we going and why do you have so many canvas bags?
Salut, Laura. On y va chez Nicolette's Macarons.
Oh, I've never been to Nicolette's store. They're just off Highway 169 and 36th in Plymouth.
Oui, ils ont 16 saveurs de macarons là.
They have 16 flavors of macaroons at the store. That's why you have so many canvas bags. I love how Nicolette supports small food entrepreneurs. Let's hurry. They're open afternoons, Wednesday through Friday, and midday on Saturdays.
Nicolette, c'est génial. Allons-y.
Let's go.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly sunny skies today with a high near 49, tonight clear with a low around 33, and Thursday sunny with a high around 52. Mavericks Real Roast Beef in Roseville sets the standard for savory satisfaction. Experience the perfection of their Philly steak, turkey bacon, avocado, and more. Elevate your meal with freshly fried fries or onion rings. Visit mavericksbeef.com or visit them off Lexington and Roseville. Mavericks Real Roast Beef.
From the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPTA 20, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to the Gaily Show. I am John Parker. We are 33 minutes after the hour. Windy City Times has been the voice of Chicago's LGBTQ plus community since 1985. This year marks the news outlet's 40th anniversary of uplifting queer stories, reporting with pride, and chronicling LGBTQ plus history. Visit windycitytimes.com/newsletters to sign up for the publication's weekly LGBTQ plus news updates. Jake Wittich is managing editor of Windy City Times, where he reports in-depth stories on Chicago's LGBTQ plus community and oversees the publication's growing news operation. Because of some fun internet issues, he joins us by phone right now. Hey, Jake, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Well, I also want to say, and Brett in the control room, cue up that applause. Jake was just named Journalist of the Year by the Chicago Journalists Association. Jake, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am so stunned. I'm used to like being recognized within the queer community, but to be recognized by the larger journalism community is just so cool. So thank you very much.
How did you find out? Was it like a call in the morning, like with the Oscars?
So I got an email about a week ago. I had been out partying on a Sunday with my friend's kickball team, and then I woke up the next morning a little too tired. I checked my email, and the subject line was just like "Congratulations," and I opened it, and it was a letter letting me know I was named Journalist of the Year by the Chicago Journalists Association. I never applied for this. I don't know if someone nominated me. I have no clue, but it was a complete shock to me, and I'm just so grateful to be recognized.
Well, congratulations. It is well deserved. And we know that because we've been hosting you here and lucky to have you here every other Wednesday sharing your award winning journalism with us. And you're here to follow up on a couple of stories, one of which I'm very curious to hear about. So, Chicago Alderperson Fuentes has filed a lawsuit against ICE. Let's start with what was the incident that led to this lawsuit?
Yeah, exactly. And I misspoke in my email to you. I want to emphasize it's not a formal lawsuit yet. What she filed is a claim that could be a precursor to a lawsuit. So she's taking legal action over this incident that basically happened, I think it was October 3rd, so earlier this month at Humboldt Park Health. Alderperson Jessie Fuentes, she responded to the hospital because she heard that a man was injured during an encounter with ICE. As I've been talking about on the show before, immigration enforcement officials or ICE are doing a big operation here in Chicago right now. And there was a man that they basically had detained. He broke his leg during the encounter, and the alderperson heard he was being held at the hospital without lawyers. So she responded to the hospital to support this man, and there were 2 federal agents in the hospital room with him. And she was like, why are you arresting him? What's he under arrest for? You know, he has constitutional rights. Where's your warrant? And they were telling her, you're not allowed to be here. And she was like, no, like I'm in a public place. I was invited by the hospital. They told me people were concerned about what's happening here. So she held her ground, and the one of the federal agents who was not wearing a mask, which is rare for them, he very suddenly grabs her, turns her around, and starts putting her in handcuffs and tells her, we're going to arrest you because you're impeding our operation. So that is what happened. And yesterday she filed a federal claim over that incident. It's under the Federal Tort Claims Act, which basically allows people to seek damages if they've been harmed by a wrongful act committed by a federal employee while they're doing their job. So that's what Alderperson Jessie Fuentes is saying happened. And it's all about holding people in power accountable right now, is what she says.
And for folks who are like, alderperson, what is that? So if you don't have an alderperson in your city, that's basically the city council members.
Yeah.
So this is like one of the highest officials in the entire city of Chicago.
Exactly. Chicago is split up into 50 different wards. So they're kind of like neighborhoods is what I would explain them as, but we have separate neighborhoods as well. And each alderperson is basically like a mini mayor of their ward. So they weigh in on everything from zoning and development changes to citywide bills that they get to vote on in city council.
Okay, so what do we know? What are actually something I wanted. Is it fair of me to characterize what ICE is doing this way? That they have a very broad definition of what impeding their work is, and then they're just able to just do whatever they want because it's so broad and vague?
It does sound like that. They're trying to claim that even people, people are very organized in Chicago about protecting their neighbors against being abducted from ICE or by ICE. And basically anyone, I've seen videos of people filming ICE's actions in neighborhoods, or there's instances where people, including alderpersons and state reps, are following ICE agents and blowing whistles in their cars to alert the community. This is an ICE agent right here. Like, be careful, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of these encounters, it sounds like the ICE agents or the federal government is trying to argue that those actions to protect their neighbors are impeding with their federal investigation. So
Mhm. So the things that we are able to do constitutionally, free speech regarding officers, we can't do with ICE. It's the more I've gotten into this story, both through your reporting and with others, about how ICE just seems to they do live in a completely different legal reality than
They're
everybody
almost acting
else.
lawless. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they have like their own judicial system. They have their own they don't have to do Miranda rights. They can cover their faces. It's just it's wild to me. But on the face coverings, do I have it correctly that Chicago ruled that they can no longer do that?
Yeah, there was a judge who issued a temporary restraining order, basically saying that the agents cannot wear face coverings. They have to wear body cameras. Whether or not the judge is being listened to, I'm not sure. I've seen some videos where it looks like they're still covering their faces, and I don't know how true it is that they're wearing body cameras, or if they are they turned on? I saw one instance shared by a reporter where it seemed like the body cameras, although on their bodies, were not turned on. So there's a judge. There are judges that are trying to ruling that ICE has to act within certain boundaries, but it's to be seen whether they're going to listen.
We are talking with Jake Wittich, managing editor of the Windy City Times, Journalist of the Year 2025 by the Chicago Journalists Association. He is joining us by phone. Jake, what happens next now in this? So Alderperson Fuentes has filed the claim. Where does it go from here?
Yeah, it's going to be reviewed by, I think, a federal agency, and they're going to get back basically on whether or not she can pursue with a lawsuit on this claim. She's seeking $100,000 in damages. The sense I'm getting from just talking to her and reading other stories where she's interviewed is she's not really doing this for the money. It's more so for the statement of we have to hold people accountable. And yeah, that's it. These ICE agents violated her constitutional rights, the man in the hospital's constitutional rights, and she wants to make sure that they're held to account for that.
Is this a case that could ultimately end up before the Supreme Court?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not like an expert in this area, so I would have to ask someone else to weigh in there.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that we will be staying tuned to your reporting on what happens next in this story. I appreciate that Alderperson Fuentes is trying to put some accountability here on ICE, because it just seems like they can do whatever they want. So I'll be curious to see how the case proceeds. Or the complaint.
I mean, this has been going on in Chicago for like 2 months now, so it's just crazy.
Well, and that's what I wanted to get to next, because Chicago had a No Kings rally this past weekend, one of over 2,500 that were in the United States. You were on the ground there. Tell us about what you saw.
Yeah, it was a massive rally. The estimate is 250,000 people, which is way larger than the No Kings rally that happened earlier this year, I think in June. I think that one had about 75,000 people. So really huge turnout here. And the anger that Chicagoans are feeling at ICE and the federal agencies that are invading our city was really palpable. There were just so many signs saying melt ICE, or using expletives to denounce ICE's actions. And people are just very, very upset about ICE's actions here. And it showed in the turnout.
What happened? So you had a massive turnout. I was curious to talk to you about the difference, because when we saw images from other cities, like here in the Twin Cities, it was there was I think a different vibe. There had to be a different vibe than what you all are dealing with in Chicago right now, because you are like ground zero currently. I mean, there was Los Angeles earlier this year. Right. Portland is like next here. Or am I blanking? Is that Seattle? But you all, for the past couple months here, have been ground zero for ICE actions, for the ire of the Trump administration. You have a huge turnout. Good signs, I'm assuming. What were people saying there on the ground?
Yeah, people were mad. The biggest thing I was hearing was just, we need ICE out of our city. But there's also a lot of solidarity among communities happening right now. I was there looking for any rainbow signs I could find as a clue, like that's a queer person I should be talking to. So there's a lot of queer people that are angry about all issues, from ICE to the attacks on the trans community, to defunding healthcare, and so many different things. So it's across the board. It was a giant rally, I should say that, a huge rally, and then it turned into a march on the streets. They marched to Trump Tower and then ICE's downtown offices in Chicago. So there was a lot, and the speakers ranged from our mayor and Governor J.B. Pritzker to Shannon Lynn Parker, who's the new CEO of Equality Illinois.
Oh wow. Okay, so there was quite the lineup.
Yeah, huge lineup. The governor was fired up. Some people were even saying it almost felt like a kickoff to a presidential campaign. But he really said, like, this is about standing up to authoritarianism. Like, we can't surrender. There's an existential threat to our democracy right now, and it's a moral imperative, is what he said, that people stand up and take action at the moment.
I think people are waiting every day now to hear when that's going to come from Governor Pritzker, an announcement. I am curious about Mayor Johnson. Was it this speech or over the weekend elsewhere where he was talking about having a general strike?
Yes. And, you know, there's a lot of debate on whether or not he really called for a general strike. If you read the transcript, it could be interpreted in multiple ways, but he was talking about how his ancestors, who were enslaved people in the United States, led a general strike. And he was just, I don't have the transcript in front of me, so I want to be careful with how I say this. There's so much debate online. But he was saying we need action right now. And if people can come together for a general strike back then, we can do it now. Whether or not he meant a general strike or just come together for collective action is to be debated. So.
Okay. What happens now? I know that the organizing, you know, for a lot of cities, there was the protest, the march, however they were organizing it, and then they kind of go back to their day-to-day lives. In Chicago, you all don't have that luxury. What is now happening next in terms of resisting ICE and the Trump administration?
Yeah, I mean, a lot more of these know your rights trainings, a lot more of how to join trainings on how to join a rapid response team. So if ICE is in your area, you know how to properly respond, how to protect your neighbors, how to film and document best practices there. So I see a lot more mobilization on that front. A lot of elected officials, from alder people all the way up to Congress people, are holding town halls about ICE in Chicago and doing these kinds of trainings so that people can get involved.
We are talking with Jake Wittich, managing editor of Windy City Times and Chicago Journalists Association's Journalist of the Year. We've got more with Jake when we come back. You're listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF and WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Guess who's back? That's right, it's me, the Grinch. Don't miss seeing me at Children's Theatre Company this holiday season. Can those Who's down in Whoville make me into a lover of Christmas joy? Doubtful! Yeah, but you'll have to come and see for yourselves. Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas is the perfect holiday treat for the whole family because of me. Yeah, the Who's are in it too, but you'll love it anyway. Tickets and showtimes at childrenstheatre.org.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. October is here, so Halloween is right around the corner. And if you're thinking of having a horror movie marathon with friends, you better make sure your home doesn't look like something out of one of those movies. Don't ghost your carpet this fall. My cleaning heroes at Zero Res can help get all those spooky smells and creepy stains out of your home. Carpet, tile, rugs, upholstery, hardwood, any surface in your home can be Zero Resified. Right now, you can get your entire home Zero Resified from Minnesota's ultimate carpet cleaner with 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $129. But there's something even scarier than ghosts and goblins hiding in your home, and it's in your air ducts. This month, take 15% off your air duct and dryer vent cleaning service. Don't let a missed deal haunt you. Call 9520-RES or go to zeroresminnesota.com today and ask for the AM 950 special. Backorder forward spells the same. Zero Res.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
There really is no place like home. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Home Health. When you're faced with an illness or an injury, being able to stay at home and receive care is important. Our home health offers a wide range of services, including skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapies, aides, homemakers, in-home respite care, and 24/7 live-in care. We'll work closely with your primary care provider to come up with an individualized plan for you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
The independently owned Next Chapter Booksellers is the perfect destination for your next book. The friendly staff at Next Chapter Booksellers are great at making recommendations no matter your age or taste. Plus, they have frequent events including book readings and meet and greets with authors. And they sell more than just books. They have a wide variety of puzzles and games, too. So stop in and browse the store off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We are coming up on the top of the hour. If you missed it and want to catch it, the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled today in a unanimous ruling for trans athletes that it can't be discriminated against, and a huge public accommodations ruling. You can check out that story on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@thegailey-show, or everywhere you get your podcasts when we get done here after our live broadcast. But I want to mention as well, we're really building out our YouTube channel right now, where we've got dozens of author interviews, and we've got special clips and shorts for you. And so you can catch up with all of the news from The Gailey Show there on YouTube. We are currently on the phone with Jake Wittich, who is managing editor of Windy City Times, and also can I get that applause again? Can I get that applause again? Because I would love to celebrate.
Oh, let me see if I can get it.
Brett's gonna get it. I'm committing to this, Jake. I'm committing to it.
Oh, it's worth it.
Right.
We're gonna get the applause.
It's
Here
so
we go.
worth it. Jake Wittich, the Journalist of the Year by the Chicago Journalists Association. Truly well earned. Okay, Jake, there is a story that you were also reporting on that is sad. It's a bummer of a story, but also I wanted to take the opportunity to celebrate it as well, because Miss Majors should be celebrated. So tell us about your reporting there around who Miss Majors is and her passing.
Yeah, so Miss Major is a trailblazing Black transgender activist. She was at the Stonewall riots, actually, and she's done a lot throughout her lifetime to really support not just trans people, but people of color, people who are experiencing incarceration, just so many different marginalized groups. And unfortunately, she did pass away a couple weeks ago on October 13th at 78 years old. So it's very sad. She touched the lives of so many, but I do want to say, like, it is something worth celebrating that a Black trans woman can live to 78 years old and have such an impact in her life. So it's sad, but her life is there's so much to celebrate there.
So tell us about the impact that she had, particularly in Chicago.
Yeah, so Miss Major, she was born on the south side of Chicago in 1946. So she spent time here growing up, and then she moved to New York City in 1962. So it wasn't too long she was in Chicago, but long enough formative years. And then in New York is where she got involved in the city's drag and underground ballroom scenes. That's like voguing. And for people who don't understand what ballroom is and maybe think like the the ballroom, different kind of dancing. But anyway, so she got involved in a lot of different things. But her life really centered on activism for the most marginalized people. So she cared for people in New York who were living with HIV in the 1980s. Later, she moved to San Francisco and helped with the city's first needle exchange program. And then she also mentored incarcerated trans women and advocated for prison reform when she was leading the Transgender, Gender Variant, and Intersex Justice Project. So she's had her hand in a lot of different things. And recently her initiative was the House of Gigi, which is a retreat for Black trans people in Arkansas.
Oh, so tell us more about that retreat.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's designed to be a space where people who are doing the work, doing the activism can come and rest. Because Miss Major really believed that resting and taking care of yourself is just as important for the movement as the on the ground fighting. We need to rest so that we have the energy to return to the fight. So that was the House of Gigi, and I actually spoke with Carter Cavazos. He spent he spent a week at the House of Gigi in September. So just a few weeks before Miss Major's passing. And Carter works for E3 Radio, which is a queer-owned radio station here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a very special bond with Miss Major and got to give me a little bit of an inside look at what it was like at that retreat.
What did he share with you?
Yeah, he said it was just amazing. They were really catered to. The fridge, like they filled out a form ahead of time. What snacks do you like? What drinks do you like? The fridge was full. There was a pool, so much kinds of stuff. And he said Miss Major was really strict about making sure they unplugged. If she saw them on their phone, she'd be like, get off the phone and get in the pool. Get off your phone and go grab a drink. And there's signs all throughout the retreat. It's a home in Arkansas that are reminders of Miss Major, of her. She has her catchphrases like Talifi, which is tell it like it. Expletive is. So there's that. And then there's signs throughout the house that were installed before her death that said, Miss Major, I'm still here, that were meant to be a testament to her longevity. But now that she's passed, they take on a new meaning. And that although she's no longer here physically, she is still here through the many people she inspired and the lives that she's touched.
Mm-hmm. If folks want to, is it an application process to go to House of Gigi?
You know, I'm not too sure. I know she invited the E3 radio team herself. They had met her at the Creating Change conference and had been interviewing her every year at that conference. And she just really took a liking to the E3 team because how could you not? They're amazing people. So they were invited there. And I'm not sure what the future of House of Gigi is. But I'm sure it's going to continue. But yeah, I'm not too sure those details.
Well, thank you very much, Jake, for joining us today. And we had to get around some internet issues. So thank you for joining us by phone.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And you can visit windycitytimes.com/newsletters to sign up for Windy City Times' weekly LGBTQ news updates. Jake manages all of those for you. Head to windycitytimes.com/newsletters. You can also follow Jake on Blue Sky. Just search for Jake Wittich, Wittich. And that is going to do it for us today. Thanks everyone for listening and or watching. Be sure to tune in to youtube.com/@thegailyshow. We've got all sorts of interviews and archives of our live episodes, breaking news through our shorts. Up next on WCPT 820 is Choose Views with Richard Chu. On AM 950 Radio, it is the Matt McNeil Show. Stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio, the only Native American radio show in the United States on a daily basis. And then at 10 p.m. Central, step into the unknown with Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio. And until this time tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to